too, because it's like right in front of my face.
Okay, we're going to begin the meeting. It's 7:01. This meeting is being audio and video recorded. If you're watching this live, and something you know is on Channel 9, it'll be repeated this week, and it will also be uploaded to YouTube. So could we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. So the Board of Selectmen will hold a public hearing at Dayton Town Hall, 979 Somerset Avenue, Dayton, Mass. To consider changing the name of the Board of Selectmen to Select Board. The public hearing will be held on Wednesday, September 25th at 7 p.m. It's actually going to be 7:02. Interested parties are invited to attend and be heard. I will entertain a motion to open this up to a public forum.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, the ayes have it. So I'll start off first. Let me give you a little bit of history as to why this has become before the board. A few months ago, I spoke to the town administrator and suggested to her that we discuss talking about changing the Board of Selectmen to the Select Board. And in our discussion, we talked about forming a committee so that the public could be involved and determine whether or not this is something that we should go forward with. So we formed a governance committee, and we asked for 7 members. We got 6 members. And shortly after we got 6 members, we got just 1 member. So that committee was dissolved. So after that, I further discussed with the town administrator my interest in putting this on the warrant that's coming up in a special town meeting in the end of October. And it will suggest at that time that we have a public forum so the public can have input and discuss this. So a little bit of background on where this comes from. If anybody knows me, I love history, so I'm going to give you a little bit of history. 1633, the town of Dorchester, at that time it was a town, formed the first Board of Selectmen. It was composed of 12 men. We meant to confiscate all the cell phones when you came in here.
I was gonna say, it was intro music to
Yes. It was nice too. So the first Board of Selectmen was composed of 12 men. It was composed of 12 white Protestant landowners men. All of us here would not be able to be on that board. All of us here would not be able to vote for that board. At that time, it was only white males that are Protestant and landowners. So in 1920, fortunately, the Congress passed the 19th Amendment, which allowed women to vote. This was first submitted to the Congress in 1878. It took 42 years for the men to change it to allow women to vote. It was not in the Constitution to begin with. Presently, there are 82 select boards out of 294 towns that have Board of Selectmen or select boards. So 82, and it's changing every year. We belong to an association, the MMA's association, that's called the Selectmen's Association. We just recently had, Nancy and I were at a meeting last week, and I had an opportunity to speak to the president of that Selectmen's Association, and he said they're in the process of changing that to the Select Board, which is gender neutral. We don't call firemen anymore, we call them firefighters. We have a former firefighter in the back over there. We don't call policemen anymore, we call them police officers. So I'm trying to, and this is my position, I'm trying to change the Board of Selectmen to be gender neutral to the Select Board. It's not about being PC, politically correct, it's about being correct. I suspect that if this was called the Board of Select Women, and all of a sudden men could vote, it'd be changed in a heartbeat, because people would be uncomfortable about being, a male would be uncomfortable about being on the Board of Select Women. One of our second president, the First Lady, before she became First Lady, wrote to her husband, who was working on the Declaration of Independence. Her name was Abigail Adams. I'm sure a lot of you have heard of her. She wrote to her husband, John Adams. John Adams happens to be one of my favorite presidents. When they were writing the Declaration of Independence, she asked to remember the ladies. So what I'm asking is to remember the ladies. Unfortunately, they did not remember the ladies, and it took until 1920 to remember the ladies. So even though we're working, or I'm working on this, and we're working on this, and it'll become a warrant, doesn't mean we're not doing anything else for the town. We're working on a lot of different issues. This happens to be one of those issues. It'll take 10 or 15 minutes of our time at the special town meeting. It's not gonna take all the time, but we're able to walk and chew gum at the same time. We've got a bunch of other stuff. We're gonna have an executive board meeting tonight. We talk about different issues. We've got a lot of things going before the town. And this change acknowledges that the board's no longer a male dominant, that are male only, that women can be part of this board. We have a woman here that's part of our board, which is a positive thing for the town. Nothing else is affected. This is not going to cost the town anything. We have business, the selectmen have business cards. We changed our email address. I didn't go run out and have a bunch of new cards printed. I just crossed it off and put my new email address on it. It's not like the old days when our letterhead, we have 10,000 copies of our letterhead. We go on a computer, we're gonna delete Board of Selectmen, if it passes, to the Select Board, so it's not gonna cost the town any money. So I'm just asking for support for this. I'll ask my colleagues to speak on this, and then if there's any public input, I'd appreciate it. I don't know who wants to go first.
I was gonna withhold my comments till we go to discuss the actual warrant articles, because I just wanted to hear from the public during this period, if that's okay, Mr. Chairman.
I've stated from the beginning, I see no reason to change the board. I'm honored to serve as a member of the Board of Selectmen. There have been 3 women. I'm the 3rd one. I don't believe the title Selectman has deterred anybody from running. Let's face it, ladies, since most of the audience is ladies. In this day and age, women are not intimidated by titles. They aren't going to be bullied anymore. They speak up frequently. In reference to the Declaration of Independence, all of us sitting here tonight, and I quote, "All men are created equal," unquote. Do any female residents of the town of Dayton believe that all men are created equal does not apply to them? We know it does. The fact that the amendment to allow women the right to vote was so late in coming doesn't really change anything. We pretty much are a very historical town. We don't have a town charter. What we have is hanging up on the wall is, that's the, if you will, the South Purchase, because we were part of Taunton years ago. My whole point is that it's historical, going back to the founding of, especially, selectmen, it's a New England term. The New England states have selectmen. And there have been some changes to the title, select persons, select board, whatever. The meeting that Mr. Pacheco referred to last Saturday of the Mass Municipal Selectmen's Association, they gave us a printout of the total number of people there that were selectmen or select board. I think it was 19 out of 21 were listed as selectmen. It's not a widely 50%, 20%, whatever.
27%.
It's not a widely acclaimed thing. I don't support it. If it passes, I'll be a member of the select board. Some people, as I said, some are select persons. I know a community that went to, I think they were called aldermen, and they just went to councilors. We don't do that here in Dayton. But again, I really think that from a historical tradition, I support selectmen. As I said, if it passes, I'll become a member of the select board. But I don't think women are deterred from running for this office because of the title. I could not have run for this office unless I was retired. I couldn't have served on the FinCom simply because the women in this town, for the most part, the married women, and we have single mothers and single heads of household. They're working, they're raising children, they've got families. They're running around to soccer games and all those other things. And if they have any time and are fortunate to be able to belong to some kind of a social organization, give them a break. They're working full-time and running families. But I don't believe the title is what has deterred anybody from running. So, the only other thing I will add is I have gotten feedback. It has not been positive. I've actually been asked if this cannot be put on the warrant but go straight to a ballot simply because when we have an election, we could have 400, 500, 1,000 people, and people might be more willing to vote their opinion with on a ballot vote. I said, I will mention it. We're bringing this up. We're discussing this tonight because we have a hearing. I said, certainly I will mention it to the board because if that's the way to get the turnout, to really get an opinion, I'll mention it. So anyhow, that's my position on this.
The public have any input? Yes.
Me, I've always, Tony Angus from Pine Street here in Dayton. I agree with all the comments that have been made today. And when I first heard about this, I sort of had the same reaction that Nancy has. But as I thought about it, I think going forward for the women in the town for the future, this would be a welcome thing. And it will just be in keeping with the times, and it will not deter any woman from trying for the position.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Chris Lynch, J Street. I kind of feel a little bit different in this position. When you talk about mankind, I think the thing is, I don't think of it as just men. That's humankind. We have men, a man and a woman. You know, we're all part of you know.
Man came up with that woman.
Well, I know,
That's what
but
I
they wouldn't go any further unless the woman was cooperating. And I worked my entire life in a heavy industrial business, construction business, and I didn't feel that I couldn't do anything that anybody else could. I set the rules about how I was to be treated, and I chose not to be a woman that was in business, not a woman that was trying to be in a man's world. And I think that we're working so hard at trying to or partly politically correct, but I read last night I was a book club thing, and they were talking about how men and women, their roles in the universe, and the line was, men are much better at women at being men. Women are much better at being women than men. In other words, the equality is there, we just have different functions, and I think we're working so hard as a society to take that all out of the equation. We're men and we're women, we're talented, we're capable, it doesn't matter, but we also come with the physical side of things that we can't change. So that's my 2 cents.
Thank you.
And I have 2 daughters that kind of have different opinions on it.
Tommy, you want
I
to
can
say?
see just sitting here, you know, getting the history lesson and then, which is good, because that's good to have that. I personally like Board of Selectmen. Now, that's just me. But I'm also open, I can see where you're going with the gender neutral concept, which is the big, it's almost like something that's happening, as you mentioned, in society. We're trying to go PC, gender neutral, all that. Maybe that is a good idea for the future. What were the options? Put it on a ballot directly?
No, I just mentioned that tonight because I've gotten feedback from people who heard we were gonna be talking about this, and our intent is to have it on the town meeting warrant. And the response was, you know what, why don't you just put it on the April ballot, because more people will see it, they will be, feel less pressured to vote one way or another, because it's gonna be a secret ballot. I mean, that's how elections are, but I just said I'd mention it.
I'm interested in it, but I hadn't been to a meeting about it either, so I wanted to come to a meeting. But also, I don't see a lot of people here even. We have the garden club is here. And myself, I mean, where's the rest of the public, you know, if they're one. So what do you do in that case? Did they know what was coming? They're outside.
They're outside, they're waiting.
Yeah, they're lined up, they're gonna come in one at a time. But yeah,
They're checking out the flowers.
I mean, it's, you know, I like Board of Selectmen because of the tradition of New England, because we were just talking about Colorado doesn't have that. Or states out west, they don't have our type of town government. They don't have the town, which is a nice thing if you go to it, if people go to it. It's a nice little thing to have. I guess I'm kind of torn between, I'm leaning towards Board of Selectmen, that's my personal opinion, but I'm open. I'm not really 100% sold on it, but I don't know how you would sell it. Would it be advertised when they get the warrant in the mail type of thing, that it's gonna be on the ballot?
That's mailed to everybody.
So I don't know what else, I think Dr.
Dr. Z.
You're up, man. I think it's your turn, but if you want to, it's not up to me, I ain't. That's all I got. I don't know if that helped or made it worse.
No, thank you.
All right, thank you.
I'll wait until we go to discuss the articles.
Well, are you talking about the warrants themselves?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's not part of the list.
Yeah, we gotta act on it.
Yeah, it is. We
Tonight.
have to act on it. We have to approve the articles to go onto the warrant for the special town meeting.
Yeah, but those are all financial. I don't believe that that's part of that list, though,
So
is
at the
it?
very end
Mhm.
is all the bylaws and non-monetary.
Number
items.
27 down the bottom, Ken.
Oh, I see, okay. You don't want to give your input now, then, while we have people here? No? Anybody else wish to speak on this? If not, we're going to go into the second part. I've talked to the town administrator.
Excuse me, should we close the hearing on this
Sure,
article?
if we-
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we close the hearing on consideration to change the name of Board of Selectmen to the Select Board.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, the ayes have it. So we're going to address this, whether or not we're going to put it on the warrant later on in the meeting. Feel free to stick around for that. So regarding recognizing the garden club, I spoke to the town administrator a little while ago, talking to her about the flowers, and I've noticed the beautiful flowers every time I come into the town hall 2 or 3 times a week. I've seen Denise a few times here watering the flowers, and I've commented to her about that. And recently, the board has been talking about recognizing people who do volunteer work for the town that wouldn't normally get recognized. So I asked the town administrator if we could put this on the agenda, if there is some way that we can recognize the great work that the town garden club does. So we have a certificate. Has everybody signed that certificate?
Not yet.
No, I never got it.
While they're signing it, let me read it. The Town of Dayton Certificate of Recognition is awarded to the Garden Club with thanks and appreciation for outstanding work and dedication in keeping the grounds of Town Hall looking beautiful. And it's signed by the Chairman of the Board of Selectmen, myself, Dr. Z, the clerk, and Nancy Willard, member. Have you signed this?
No. The only question I had was, they do more than the town hall. You do, don't you do the Veterans Memorial? And are you part of the group working on the old town hall?
Yes. Yeah.
My only thought would be, it would be grounds of town buildings, because, I mean, I've seen you in other places in town, some of it's private, like the post office and that, but you do so much more than just the town hall, and everything you do is beautiful. No question about it. That would be my only concern, that we reprint this and we refer to town facilities. It's not limited to that little garden out front. And I know you've cleaned the shrubbery gardens.
Yep. Yes.
Well, this references to keeping the grounds of Town Hall looking beautiful, so it's the Veterans Memorial, it's the front of the building, it's the old Town Hall. I'm not sure we necessarily have to reprint this.
I just make the point, they do a lot more than we're citing them for. That's my point.
Thank you. Yes. And we also put up the Christmas swags on the government buildings.
You're looking for another award, is that what
We'll take another certificate.
Or gift at Christmas time.
We planted flowers at the gazebo, and we're waiting for that to be painted.
Well, I've asked Brett to come over with a paintbrush, and he says he doesn't paint.
Don't trust my work on that.
But we've had conversations about this.
Absolutely.
So you brought it, Denise, you brought it to my attention, so we've had
Yes.
conversations, so.
How many are you here from the garden club? Everybody?
Oh, women.
Except for the town.
Oh, they won't. Thank you.
So what is the status of the gazebo, do you know?
We have a handful of other projects going on right now. I did mention to him that we need to get it painted, but my thought was actually reaching out to one of the schools, either, BP is kind of what's really in my mind. I really enjoy showcasing students' work, and they get the experience, and then it's something enjoyed by all. So I'll just reapply the pressure. If it's possible, I would like to say I have the privilege of having a front row seat to your work. My office overlooks it, and I love it. It's been beautiful to look at every day, and I very much love the pumpkin that made it there. So I thank you for your work. It's beautiful. It's so nice to it spruces us up. And you specifically, I watch you come in with the jugs of water, and I'm always like, oh, I should go out there and say hello, and then something catches my attention and I focus. But thank you very much. It's nice. It's great to see community involvement, just everyday residents looking to do a little good in the world. So I appreciate it, and I'm looking forward to more to come, I guess.
No, I haven't. Is there a motion to sign it? That's what you need.
Motion, so moved. Motion to sign.
Is there a second?
I will second it, and I will sign it, because I assume it's going to be voted. But I want to state publicly, you do so much more than what this certificate states, and I want the public to know that. And it will be part of the record. So thank you very much.
Is this the first time the Garden Club's been recognized for the work?
Do you do the Winslow Davis House too, or is that separate? No. Arujos does that.
So I'm gonna ask Denise and Charlene to come up first, and then we'll have everybody come
You
up.
gotta
We're
call
gonna
the
take-
vote. You gotta
Oh,
call
we
the
gotta,
vote.
we gotta vote whether we're.
We got a motion and a second on
Well,
the
just
floor.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, the ayes have it.
Yeah, I just hope I have room.
So you two can come up first, and then everybody else can come around here.
Sorry, I don't want to back
Oh,
up into
you know what we said after the policeman's thing? We should go out there because there's not enough room to get pictures. We end up with these chairs and the
We
pictures.
didn't say that.
Yeah,
You
we
may have
did.
said it, no, we didn't.
After
You
the
did.
police presentation, we said the presentation should take, the selectmen
Like in
should
front
move
of
out.
in front of the deck.
Yeah, because when we try to get a group picture, we end up with
Sorry,
these
oh,
chairs.
that's okay. Hold on, I'm gonna end up being
I
here.
thought this was gonna be a short meeting.
What did I tell you about that? Whenever you think it's gonna be short.
But I do want the other members to be here, so.
Sure.
So we move up and let them,
You want to take that one first?
Then we'll get in.
Everybody smile.
I'll smile on the inside.
I can fit more in my picture. If you want to all get up. Are you having everybody stand up? Yeah.
Yes, please.
Go ahead.
Did everybody
I
else
can
come up?
fit you
Tom,
all.
you stay right there, Tom.
You guys step forward, we'll get back.
No, not tonight.
Yeah, but you're
Thank you, Phil. How much is it?
Maybe some of the shorter people in the front.
Yeah. Look at us, we're
I'll
all
stay
about
in
the
the
same
back.
height.
I've been with Charlene for 35 years.
Yeah,
Charlene, is he bossing you around tonight again, just like the old days?
Smile. Cheese.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
So you guys can fight as to who gets,
Thank you.
thank you very much.
Clubhouse, we can
Well, I'll
find
bring
that
it to,
for a
I'll
wall.
bring it to.
Do you know if you tap someone's face, it'll focus on them?
Yes, yes. Get you on a little step stool. I know. Photographer's stool.
All right, we're gonna continue the meeting. Feel free to stay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for everything.
Thank you.
Okay. Should have asked them to want a public input.
Did Tom
speak?
leave? Oh,
Public input?
Tom? You got public
Will
input?
you please come to the microphone, please?
We were talking, Tom Berkwin from 3076 Hunters Hill Drive. We were talking earlier, just throwing it around. I'm a member of the Development Industrial Commission. All right, and I was just curious. The chair, I don't want to impose. I don't know if there's something going on, or I don't really have the right to speak about it, but I am a member, and I'm just curious. We haven't met, and I want to make sure Vicky was all right. If I could mention her name, Vicky Piazza.
Do we know, do they have regular scheduled meetings?
I thought it was the
No.
first Monday of every month
We
or
haven't met in
something.
a while.
It's like the
unless-
third Monday.
Or the third, I'm sorry, the third
We
Monday
haven't
of every
met in months, as far as I know, and I don't believe we have.
Do we have a
because-
full committee?
Yes.
I believe so.
Oh.
No, one resignation from Mr. Olson.
But we've got enough for a
Recently.
quorum.
Yeah,
You
there's
have a
like
quorum.
six
Yes, you have.
people.
Yeah, there's 6, Mr. Figueroa's on there, a couple other people.
Oh, no, 5, because I think
Oh,
Cahal.
Cahal as well, yeah.
But there's still a
that's
quorum.
still a
You can
quorum.
still
Yeah,
meet.
yeah. I was just curious because we haven't, I know normally would get a notice, we haven't met.
So since the election in April, usually committees and boards, we do our appointments, and after, whether it's the election, if it's elected, it's the election after that. If it's appointed by us, after
Right.
we appoint everybody, the
Reorganize.
next, exactly,
Yeah.
so you haven't
I haven't been notified of any meetings, I don't believe
Okay.
there's been any meetings, because I did talk to, is it Greg? Mr. Olson, who did,
He's left the.
he got reappointed, but he didn't want to be reappointed, and he
Correct.
came back and turned it in. Now, as far as he knew, we hadn't met any at all. So I haven't got any notices. She's very, always very good about notifying the members, and you get so on and so forth. Now, recently I went on, not recently, but about a month ago or so, I checked the website. There really hasn't been much.
Did you ever contact her?
I did quite a while ago, and all she did was reassure me that I was still a member.
So could
But
we
did
check-
you ask when
So-
the meeting was?
right.
When-
She
when
had
they were-
scheduled one and it was canceled. This was quite a while ago. I'd have to look it up to look at the text.
Mhm.
But it was months, and I'd say it was, I guess technically we could say we were off for the summer, but
Mhm.
there was something before summer that got canceled due to the fact that it wasn't posted on time.
Could we check on the status of that committee then, since it's a board
I
that we,
mean, I think you
that we
could
appoint?
easily reach out to her again. and
Yeah,
say,
I
would
just
like a
don't
meet-"
wanna,
Well, you could say, I would like a meeting.
just wondering if there was anything that you knew about it, anything? Or aware of anything? No.
Mm-mm.
That's
Anything
all.
else?
It's not a big emergency. I just was curious, that's all.
Thank you for the input.
That's all I
Thank
got.
you.
All right, thanks.
Okay, Town administrators report.
I don't have, oh, I'm sorry.
Town administrators report.
I'm sorry. I don't have much to say, to report, but I did want to let the public know that those specialized websites that we contracted with John Guilfoyle for, the Dayton Fire, Dayton Police, and the Dayton Portal, which is our news and events. Those are up and running and quite active, and I encourage you to check them out. They're specialized sites in the sense that if you are looking for police-specific information or fire-specific information or community events, we now have these available to you. So I wanted to let you know that they exist and are up and running. That's it. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There is no old business, new business, review and vote on warrant articles.
So what you have here tonight is everything that was submitted. I don't know if, I have some opinions on this. I don't know if you'd want them.
Well, we don't know what we have in free cash yet, though.
Right, the estimate is about 1.3 million. Some of these items wouldn't come from free cash. One's the cable, that would come from their PEG access. One's the harbor master, that would come from that municipal waterways fund. And of course, I did speak with the highway superintendent about the road sweeper, the street sweeper, which is obviously a high price item. And he was amenable to holding that until annual town meeting next year. So that's something that we could defer, but of course, it's up to you.
Yeah, that was a concern of mine, that the highway department had about 25% of this budget, so I was
I had that concern
a little
as well.
concerned about that. Regarding the ADA coordinator budget, I've spoke to the town administrator, I've been asking that whoever becomes our ADA coordinator gets paid $25 an hour, up to 10 hours a month. It'll be monitored by the town administrator. This $3,000, because if it does pass, it doesn't become effective until the end of October, beginning November, so it's actually $2,000 we're looking for instead of $3,000.
Is there any, so I supported the original budget for the ADA coordinator. Is there any, do you see any potential issue with like any of the unions creating this new position? I guess that's my only
No,
concern.
you'd create a new position and then you'd post it, and we would take applications, and the best fit candidate would ideally take the position.
Thank you.
So do you want to go down each article?
Yes, that would be great. So the first two I have here as just, hey, I'm thinking about these, but I don't believe that we're in a position to take care of this right now. It was there really as a placeholder in the hope that we would have something, but
These would be raise and appropriate.
yes.
They wouldn't be
We
free
didn't-
cash. No,
Well, we
no.
didn't identify
Yeah,
on this
there's
sheet.
no
for-
number there, but
Right.
these are not
So
free cash.
I'm thinking that I could take that off at this point, but wanted to run it by you. I didn't want to make that decision unilaterally. The police station bond payment, again, we are looking to utilize free cash so that that does not hit the tax bill. And you would set the rate without that included. This MVP plan, I've been talking a lot about this. We've received a grant. The idea was to either utilize professional technical, but we would drain that account, or we could ask the people to fund it at town meeting. If you'd like, we can use operating funds for that. We would just have to be careful for the remainder of the year. So that if you're looking to take something off, that's an option. I already mentioned the street sweeper. He was okay to defer. The elementary school is looking to redo a sidewalk with a wheelchair accessible ramp to their new greenhouse. They put in for that. Due to when we were doing the network upgrades, we realized that none of the machines that we had were being automatically updated, which we didn't know. So some of the machines were operating off of Windows 7, and our new email system was not compatible with that. So there needs to be some computer purchases. I got a great price, $330 for a machine, which is about half what we were normally looking at. So I could lower that. The other part of this article is we're looking to connect via electric lines, Old Town Hall and Prime Time. And there's a pole that we could connect to. It's a minimal work, probably like $2,000-ish. And we would be able to remove the Comcast subscription from Prime Time. So that's a recurring cost. We'd like to take that out, and then we could just connect these buildings, and they would essentially on the network operate as one. So that's probably a conservative estimate, so it's a little high. I could take some money off of that.
So do we think $16,000 will cover that then?
Absolutely, I think I can reduce it a little bit. There's a request for a cruiser, and as part of that, the idea is to take the detective's vehicle and give it to the animal control officer, and then the Board of Health and the animal control officer would outfit that new vehicle to serve animal control purposes. That saves us, I think if you remember at the last town meeting, you had deferred the town deferred an article for the animal control officer to get a new vehicle. And this is a much cheaper situation than what was previously explored.
She needs something.
She does need something, and
How does
this,
that work with green communities, though?
it's okay,
It's,
it's okay.
what is the vehicle being given to the ACO again?
What the detective's driving right now, which I think is a 2014 Explorer.
Oh, yeah, if it's.
But it
usually-
has the emissions. I'm sorry.
Yeah, usually with the SUVs, when they're newer, they're judged by a different standard than a small sedan is. So I think that that's fine. We should probably just ask, like we did with the deputy, with one of the fire vehicles. I think it was
Yeah,
the deputy,
yeah.
the Tahoe. Okay, thank you. Yeah, if that one passes, then.
Right.
A
Exactly.
2014 one, but we
We're just
want to
gonna
be,
double check,
that's a good
yes.
point, Mr. Chairman. We just want to be sure.
Cable. Oh, this is so they need to redo their equipment downstairs in our lower level meeting room, and that would come out of PEG access funds, not free cash.
So
the,
this, I'm sorry. I interrupted.
It's
you.
okay, you're gonna talk about the current one, I was gonna move on.
Well, the 23,000, would that cover the cable next door and?
I
cable-
don't believe so, I think
and
it is
So it's not
just
gonna be
for
live next door yet?
the
Okay.
lower level meeting room.
Okay.
The harbor master is seeking $5,000, but he proposes to utilize the municipal waterways fund. That's also not coming out of free cash. The fire department's looking for a utility body truck. Of course, demolishing 949 Somerset Avenue, which is our property next door. I don't know.
A question on 14.
Ooh, our property.
What does car 3 mean?
That's how he references his fleet, so
So
he's
car
trying
3
to
is
replace car
going.
3. He's gonna
Okay.
replace car 3 with
Okay.
this if it passes.
What is car 3? What, do we know the age? What
I
are
don't.
we replacing?
Did he respond to that? I think, I always thought car 3 was as a sedan.
They've got an old black sedan cruiser.
Yeah.
I think it's actually.
I don't even have that on mine.
Yeah,
Where-
it's one of the
what
old
version
Fords,
do I
one of
have?
the
Well,
brown
It's
bits.
been updated, so you probably don't.
Sorry.
Yeah, I
This
won't
is-
get it if it's before the meeting.
It would just before the meeting. Okay, you can continue.
Demolition of 949 Somerset Avenue, which is the house next door. Wooden guardrails for the police station. This is an estimate. I don't know what the decision's going to be because we haven't made that decision yet, and the building committee is still working on that to provide you their official recommendation. We've gone over there, we're trying to get the lowest cost. You also do have $30,000 left in that police station budget that is an option for you to use there, just to think
So
about that.
when we had Tom Ferry here, when we talked about the guardrails, there was a figure of $6,000. And how did we get from 6,000 to
So
28,000?
they wanted to use the steel, it's a wooden guardrail with like a reinforced steel, and it's more expensive, it's not on our Sursage list. But that's not an official recommendation, so I don't really wanna speak more about
I
it.
had the same question because we talked about
Yeah.
getting the strongest thing we could
Yeah, it
at
was
the most cost-effective, and we
Right.
thought it was, well, we talked about steel rails.
Yeah, I'm a little concerned about this. I don't understand how something becomes 4, 5 times more expensive than what was discussed at the meeting. So I don't feel comfortable voting on that one tonight.
Okay, so that means then, if you don't have this, like, the money can change. The money can change right up until the night. But if you don't vote on this now, we
So-
run the risk of not,
I think we can
Putting
vote
it
on
in.
it. I don't wanna say wooden, guardrails,
okay, so.
straight wooden.
So how about, barrier protection, or, what did we call it? I get what you're saying though, so we'll just not be so specific.
Because I think at town meeting, people are gonna wanna, exactly, if they're watching this or they've heard about it, they're gonna say, you've been talking about so many different things. It was
Right.
stones, it was this. And if we just put the warrant article on with guardrails, or something to describe some kind of a protective barrier,
Right, protective.
then at town meeting, we won't be limited to a wooden guardrail, which some of us don't support. Okay?
Thank you.
So basically, we're going through these warrants and we're gonna decide, we're gonna vote to put these on
Right, so
the warrant.
this is everything that's been submitted.
But this can be changed because we don't know what the free cash is, right? We don't know.
I think the numbers, yeah.
Right, so the numbers,
figures.
the numbers can change, so
Yeah.
I'm okay with putting this on the warrant,
Mm-hmm.
like Mrs.
Right,
Gross.
I generally write something like a sum not to exceed, so that the warrant and the townspeople know, okay, it's gonna cost us at most $68,000. But we can come out at town meeting and say, oh, we found something on sale or whatever, and it's $50,000. But they know, and I think everybody knows this, Mr. McKeon is very clear about it, that you can't exceed the amount that is on the warrant, but you can go less.
And are we planning to bid out 949 Somerset Avenue? Because
Yes, this
we
is
could
an
save money
estimate.
there
This
on
would
a bid.
probably be, he said 35 to 40, but I don't ever wanna come up, it's 40 and I only asked for 35.
Yeah,
So that's a high number, but again, I don't know if you wanna demolish this. So this is just everything that's been submitted,
Yeah.
and then we can play with, and then the finance committee looks at this as well. So they play around with it and fund it in different places as well.
So we're gonna vote to put these warrants, but not necessarily with those figures.
Exactly. This is to
But-
give you an idea of what we're talking about.
But before the special town meeting, the board will have those figures,
Mm-hmm.
correct? So I would like the board at that time to
Yeah,
either
Right.
support
So
or not
your
support
next
that
meeting-
particular
especially if
warrant.
some
your next-
numbers are
Yeah.
changing.
Well, at your next meeting, you're signing the warrant, and at that time, we will have concrete,
Right.
mostly
And we can always
information.
reduce on town meeting floor if there's one we don't have a number on.
Right.
We can go up to X dollars, and then at town meeting, if we have a number, we say, the motion is for this amount of money.
Right.
So that will automatically change it.
Thank you.
The wide area mower is to replace equipment. We do believe we can get it cheaper a little bit, but, again, it's just to be conservative, make sure you have enough. The 1-ton pickup truck, also requested by the highway superintendent, was something that he requested at annual, and everyone voted to defer it to the fall, so it's just popping up again. A man lift for the highway department, also is a new request from him, but it's part of the OSHA compliance that he's working towards. This sidewalk thing is actually a question for Selectman Goulart.
Could I go back to the man?
yes.
lift? Exactly what is that?
Good, I
Should it
had
be
that
the-
question
should it
too,
be
and
the
I thought I
person
was
lift?
down.
Given, should it be the person lift, given the conversation we had just a little while ago?
So I asked what this was as well, and it's like, it brings him up, brings the person up, and it's sort of like a bucket truck or a scissor lift,
Oh, I know what
that
Okay,
is. Scissor lift.
so it's sort of like a scissor lift, but it's to give them height for cleaning out gutters, for doing some tree work, getting on top of the larger vehicles, and it's to assist in fall prevention, which is very important for OSHA. Now that we're subject to those statutes, this is an important thing for us to at least attempt to receive from the public.
Thank you.
Absolutely. This one about sidewalks is actually a question. I don't know if I have the figure wrong here. This is a carryover from annual. We talked about this. We are going after funding through Complete Streets. I don't know if this is a good number, if you want to continue. We do have some funding available, considerable amount of funding available for easements and engineering work. That's left over from a previous article, I believe, from 2017. So I don't know if this is actually necessary, and I was just here to kind of pick your brain.
Mr. Ferry asked me about this today, but the records are here, and we were working on stormwater. And what I said to him, I will look at that. No, I haven't looked at it. But what I would say is, for the purpose of putting it on the warrant, I would suggest we do it. Because if we get the correct info, and it is on the warrant at town meeting, if there's no motion, it's not going anywhere. And we can plan ahead and say, oh, we found out this, or we found out that. All of those appraisals have been done. They're locked up in the file behind my desk, my work area there. But off the top of my head, I didn't have it for him today, but,
Okay, so I'll work with you to get
all right,
final.
okay.
Thank you. The assessor has put this in, she does this every year, I believe, for the revaluation.
Yes.
The data processing accounts, as I indicated earlier, we did not know that many of these machines were operating on very old software. So some timing, it took a lot more in time to complete these projects than originally estimated. So I'm looking for figures to fund the network processing budget 155, as is the treasurer. The highway and the highway department and the town clerk are looking jointly in this endeavor to purchase a trailer, and the trailer would be to basically cart all the election equipment. Mr. Ferry made a good point that right now there's no cover or anything over it when they're transporting it. So if it's raining, we still have an election to run, so it's getting wet. The handling of it from going in from the building into the truck, out of the truck into another building, and then vice versa back when everything's said and done. So we could extend the life of these items by providing protective
Are they
cover.
being stored there or just transported? Are they still under the stairwell?
Yes, they're still, which is a problem. I mean,
No,
they can't be.
so that's not, it's just,
Yeah.
it looks weird, but that's not my issue. So are these being stored there after they're used?
Are these,
Under the
the
stairs.
stuff
The verbiage is
inside?
store.
No, they would be, so
Are
they
they
would be
used for
in the trailer.
transportation? Or are they used to store them there permanently
Both.
when they're not being used?
The
Okay,
trailer
perfect.
does both.
So
Okay.
they're gonna be stored, okay.
Right. OPEB, our other post-employment benefits, we're actively funding that. I'm very proud of this town for doing that. So we just stuck in a number of 200,000. Usually the finance committee kind of maneuvers that, and she starts there. And then I've requested this. I'd like us to put some money back in stabilization. Over the last couple of town meetings, we've utilized stabilization funds. I just want to put something back. Other people might not agree. I just think it's
I think that's
a
a
good
good
thing
idea.
to do. And I threw out 200,000. I don't know what you want. We could do whatever's left over. We could
Yeah.
stick a number. It's up to you.
Is
really.
that a case, to your point earlier, Mr. Chairman, where, let's say we end up having more money
Right,
left over
yes.
after these articles are finalized? Can we change the number here from, like, can we increase it?
You can increase it, and then I can write the article in such a way that I would put a higher number of what could be in stabilization, and then you can lower it. But say the $68,000 truck doesn't pass, and it was supposed to be coming out of free cash, you can just add $68,000 to what goes into stabilization. You add that to your motion, but as long as the figure that was posted on the warrant is not less than what your motion is, then you're fine. As long as that's not the case, you're fine.
I had a million questions, I apologize, and now I don't really have any because I realized I was using an outdated version. Mine says AgCom, and I'm on that commission, so I'm like, how did something get on here that I didn't know about? So I apologize, I was using the wrong one.
No problem. The primetime canopy, I just want to explain this a little bit. So the Elder Services Director received $10,000 from the state again, thank you, to the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Department of Elder Services. And she has been speaking about a canopy since I can remember, starting here. And the canopy goes over the walkway, protects it from the elements, and keeps it a little bit safer for people traveling to and fro in inclement weather. So as part of this, Mr. Aguirre, the building commissioner, did do some cost analysis for it and said that it's not just a canopy, we have to do some effort to the roof so it can hook on. So the $10,000 isn't gonna get us the whole way. So I spoke with the finance committee chairman about if he thinks that it should go on as a matching article essentially, and we threw in $8,000, and we would work with the state again, similar to what we did with the animal shelter, to get this project off the ground. And they've accepted our scope, the state did, so we would be free to go if the voters supported this. And then the non-monetary ones, of course, the select board idea that you spoke about today, a revitalized kennel bylaw that they worked on. There was one from the town meeting that they basically passed on. They didn't pass it, they held it, and they've revisited it, revamped it, and submitted again. And then the ADA commission was something that Selectman Pacheco was working on as part of the ADA compliance component of our 5-year plan. And that is to develop a commission. I apologize.
Did we, up the top where we have the number 7, ADA coordinator's budget, Didn't we fund something in that?
You did, the Board of Selectmen, during the budget process, the Finance Committee took it out.
Oh, they cut it
And
off.
s-
I know we
right,
cut
and so-
EEO, but I
Yes.
didn't realize they had
Yes, so they
eliminated
cut
that.
out both of them, brought it to town meeting, and that's the budget that was voted on by the
Okay.
people.
The only other thing is the warrant article for old bills in case we have any.
Oh, that's right.
Okay. Do we want to vote on this as a whole, or, I know you wanted to comment on select board, so
Yeah,
this
I'll,
might be the time to do it.
sure, yeah, I'll just be very brief. I think I've stated a couple times publicly that personally I do support this. My concern, I have a couple concerns about this, based on some feedback, and my concerns are that by bringing this forward, I feel like it gives the public the impression that, in their opinion, we're not prioritizing or focusing on maybe more pressing matters, again, subjective, their opinion, such as bringing business to town, space and budget issues with the school, et cetera. I do think that I've been fortunate enough over the last almost 4 years, it's like we're married on this board, to serve with someone, a distinguished, strong, intelligent woman, who has expressed several times, she's been very consistent, that she doesn't see the name of this board as an impediment. And when I ran for selectman, I also ran against a strong woman who didn't see it as an impediment either. So personally, I struggle with feeling like it's not appropriate for me to tell a woman, where we're going to discuss changing the name to make it gender neutral, what's right on matters of inclusion. I have principles too. I do support this personally, but I also struggle with being elected to represent the people of Dayton, to enact their wishes, not to put my own personal principles and desires above theirs. So I've made many decisions that were against my own personal feelings and thoughts, in pursuit of those best interests and wishes of the people of Dayton. The impression that I have is that by pursuing this, again, we are prioritizing the wrong things in their eyes. So I'm not gonna support this tonight.
So when you mean in their eyes, you mean some people in their eyes. Well, I just think we ought to let the people in town decide whether or not they want to go with this. I can walk and chew gum at the same time. I've done other things other than this, and this is something that I feel strongly about, as I've made it clear several times during the board meeting, so I do think we ought to change it. Mrs. Goulart is comfortable with it, that's fine. But there's gonna, hopefully, someday, there's gonna be 3 women sitting up here, and it won't be 3 men sitting up here, or whatever, like it's been for hundreds of years. So I just think that we ought to give the impression that we're gonna give the opportunity to everybody to run for the board. Like I said before, if this was the Board of Selectwomen, we'd be changing it. All of a sudden, men got the right to vote, we'd be changing it in a heartbeat. So if there's men out there who don't support the change, you want to run for select person, run, putting your signs, I'm running for select woman. Because if the name doesn't matter, then it doesn't matter whether you're running as a select woman or a select man. So I just think we ought to we don't know whether it's going to pass, but I just think we ought to give the public the opportunity to vote on it. What people post on Facebook, many of those people aren't going to a meeting. I've never seen, some of the names I've seen, I've never seen them at a meeting. So I'd rather have people go to a meeting, discuss it, like people had an opportunity tonight, like the board had tonight, and make a vote on it, decide which way they want to go with it, so.
I thank my colleague for your kind remarks. I thought of something that, I was the one who proposed it a few years ago. On the town meeting warrant, there was a straw vote. It was, would the town consider expanding the board from 3 to 5 people? If it was voted no. If it had been voted yes, then it would have appeared on the ballot in April, because we felt that it was such an important change, and we don't get big turnouts at town meeting. But if enough people at that town meeting said, Yeah, put that question on the election ballot. Would you consider a straw vote at this meeting, and if it's positive, we put it on the ballot?
Well, we're talking about taking up time, that we're gonna have a straw vote, bring it, discuss it anyway, and then if it, say it passes, then we're gonna put it on a ballot. I just
Well,
think we all-
only,
I hear what you're saying, Mrs. Goulart.
what
so
I'm saying to you is, you feel strongly it should be there. Two of your colleagues have said we don't support it. What I am offering or trying to offer is a compromise, okay? Because right now, tonight, we could vote and say it's not gonna be on the ballot. But you've done work, you've expressed your opinion, and I don't do Facebook, I don't know what people are saying. But I recognize that this is important to you. So that's why I'm saying, when we talked about going from 3 to 5 selectmen, it was because enough people said to me, you ought to expand the board. And I said, I will bring that forward only as a straw vote. I want to know how people feel. And if it passes at the town meeting, we'll put it on the ballot. So a lot of people can then really have the final say, and we will get a good majority because more people vote than show up at town meeting. I'm only asking you if you would consider this as a compromise. The other thing too is, it's not pressing because when we started with this whole governance thing, we knew that the changes in elective offices that we talked about to become appointed isn't gonna happen right away because people just got reelected and all that. So it isn't like we're pressed for time and we need to get it done. And the other thing is, you said if there were someday 3 women sitting here, regardless of what it's called, they may wanna change it. But it doesn't have to be 3 women. The next Board of Selectmen, at the next election, could change it. It just seems to me if we go to the ballot vote, we're gonna get a good response, yes or no, and future boards of selectmen, or whatever they are going to know that in 2020, if it makes the ballot, the town was pretty vocal on this one. And I think it more addresses what you're saying about what people feel. I've heard the comments about, can't you find something better to do? And I said, we're at the discussion stage, and you know, the chairman feels we ought to bring it forward. But that's my only thought. It's a compromise suggestion, that's all.
I just want to be clear about something I said earlier. It's the perception that this isn't pressing. To me personally, as someone who has been marginalized, inclusion is always important. But again, I just feel like the perception out there is that with all the things going on right now, why is this even a topic for discussion? That's all that I was saying tonight.
And along those lines, if the chairman is comfortable, and we do this as a straw poll with the thought of if it passes, it goes to the ballot.
When you say straw poll, Selectman Goulart,
So,
you mean a non-binding
it's a non-binding
resolution,
referendum,
yeah.
yes. But if it passes, automatically it will be on as a ballot question. And we will get, I think, probably the best feedback we can get, because people go out and vote, but they don't come to town meetings. And whatever the results of that are will determine how we go forward. If it's a strong yes vote, it's gonna happen, and future boards will say, hey, the people were strong on this. If it's a no vote, same thing. Future boards are gonna say, I remember when that came up, oh, this happened. That's all I'm saying. I think the fact that the chairman has brought this forward, feels it's important. 2 of us have expressed opinions not in support of it. Again, I'm just looking for a compromise to move forward. That's all I'm saying.
Well, I'm not your typical politician. I didn't put my thumb up and see which way the wind's blowing. I didn't put a poll on Facebook asking people, do you support this or not support this? In principle, I think it ought to be changed, and I think it should be on the warrant. That's my position. We were talking about wasting time. We're gonna put it on the warrant as a straw vote, and then if it passes, then we'll put it on the ballot. That's taking more time. Either let the people vote, let the people speak. You know, hundreds of people express their opinions on this one way or the other on Facebook. Some don't live in town, as you noted the last meeting. Someone who opposes change, lives in another town that has a select board, so I hope that life is okay. And if all the people who voted on this poll comes to the meeting, we've doubled the number of people that we had at the last special town meeting. So if people are interested, they're gonna come out and vote. If they're not interested, they're not gonna come out and vote. I wasn't interested in putting it as a
But
straw vote.
we're not wasting time, because it's not imperative that if the people at the special say, yeah, let's put it on the ballot, it's not imperative that it take effect immediately. We're not wasting time because, again, it's not imperative, but it's also an opportunity. If it passes at the town meeting, it can be on the ballot. What I'm saying to you is, if it doesn't pass, then it's a moot point until it's brought up
And
sometime
if
in
it
the
does pass,
future.
it happens. So I think it should be on the warrant. You can vote the way you want, but I think it should be on the warrant.
As a straight-out vote or as
Straight
a
out vote,
non-binding?
one way or the other, let the people express their opinions and decide how they want to go on it. So,
I will,
I think it's a good thing if the board listens to feedback from people. I don't think it's a bad thing. Like I said, I'm not here to enact every single thing I want. Many times, things that I thought were best for the town didn't end up passing. You roll with the punches. I'm not here to put my principles before anybody else. I don't think that's why I was elected personally. I think I was elected because I was going to do what's best. And it stinks sometimes. You end up voting for things you don't personally agree with, and that's the way I feel about it. But I take no shame in
that's
how
the
I
difference
feel about
between
this.
you and I, because I don't vote for stuff that I personally don't agree with. It's a matter of principle. I think this is very important. I vote on principle. You asked that question when I ran for select person, whether I vote on principle or pragmatism. I said principle, and that's the way I vote. So
Yep.
I believe this. I think people ought to have the opportunity to vote on it. If my colleagues choose not to support it, I'm not going to lose sleep over it, but I just think it's something that's important.
but that's my point in a compromise. The reason why the straw vote, again, non-binding referendum was on that, increasing the size of the board, was because, in effect, the people were talking about it, it was brought to the board, and we pretty much said, we don't know, let's see how people feel. And that's why we did it that way, so that people would have a chance to weigh in on it. And with the town, if it passes at the town meeting and goes to the ballot, many more people will weigh in on it on the ballot. We know how our attendance at town meetings are, but that's the reason I'm suggesting this.
If it were me, I would take the compromise. If it was something I truly believed in, I would keep fighting because I never quit. So I think the ball is in the chairman's court on whether he thinks that is palatable and something that.
I don't think it's palatable. I think it should go before the people to vote up or down, not to delay it till next April or whatever. It was put on to change the 5 members. I was opposed to that. I voted against it. I spoke against having this board become 5. I had that opportunity. I get it. But if it passes, then we're now going to take it to a second vote to see if it passes again. If the people speak at a town meeting, they support this. I'm not saying they want to support it, but if they vote to support it, if this passes, why are we then going to take it to another meeting? Let's see if we can change the vote or whatever. No. Either the board's going to allow this to be on the warrant and let the people vote and speak and whatever on this, or I'm not into this 2, 3, 4, discussing 2 or 3, 4 times.
Okay,
So.
historically speaking, I'll just give you one more piece of information. At the meeting, the town meeting we had, and it may have been when that non-binding referendum was there, but that was also the night that I asked for the 60-some thousand to do the study of the property that AstraZeneca, the dam lot, what they wanted to give us. And that passed. I also made the motion to buy the property at 949 Somerset Avenue. That failed because the amount of money was too high. They thought it was a good idea to acquire, but it was too much money. Fine, that was okay with me, but when it came on the market again, I felt strongly, it's a good idea, let's try it again. So, I guess, I think if you feel strongly about something, you have to take the action that gives you the best opportunity or the best possibility of getting it through. And if it's a no vote in the end, you haven't lost anything, because this is not an imperative thing like we gotta do it immediately in October, because something's gonna happen if we don't. Whether it gets voted in October and goes to the ballot, it's not earth-shaking. I mean,
Some of us think, it may not be earth-shaking, but some of us think it's important. So anyway, there's no motion on the floor to put it on the warrant.
do you want to go through these one by one, or do you want how do you want us to do this?
I think we ought to vote on all of them. We can take out the select board if we choose not to. Well, on the money ones, when we vote on the money ones, the figures are gonna change. I wanna see what we have for free cash. Personally, I don't wanna spend all of our free cash at this meeting, because we don't know what's else could come up in the meantime, so.
We can vote these articles, but not dollars tonight, and say the dollars will be, the dollar amounts will be prepared for the warrant.
Right. And
We
you'll
gotta
see
read the
them.
warrant before the thing anyhow, so then
Right.
people are
And
gonna
we're
know.
And we're gonna take a position on it.
what the
board's
numbers
gonna
are.
take- Right.
While that happens on the 9th, which is our next meeting, I was gonna suggest, you might be all set with this, but if we went down, somebody could say hold. Anything that was held, we talk about separately, and then the others you can make in a swift motion. But I don't know if that is palatable.
On the financial items through number 26, and the possibility of old bills, which is out there
Right.
hanging somewhere, I just assume that we vote the wording of the following, don't put the numbers in, because I always like to go to the finance committee meeting and see what they're gonna say.
Right.
And then, based on what they say, like, some of these to me are cut and dried, especially the ones that aren't raise and appropriate, and it's not free cash, because we already got money to do things, like the
Right.
harbor master's request. So, I'm willing to make a motion. I will make a motion. Let's see if we get a second. Mr. Chairman, I move that the articles listed, starting with number 2 through number 26, plus an article for the payment of old bills, if we have any, be placed on the warrant for the special town meeting with the numbers to be determined.
But before if we get the second, 2 and 3 we're not putting on, right?
Well-
Did we
That's
decide-
you can.
If it settles, if it settles,
I thought you had said not to put it on.
Well, I'm actually leaving it to your,
It
in your
plays
It
Placeholders.
it should be on then, because we may
if
have.
they settle
right.
before
I
then, we
think
can
it's a
plug in a
show of
number.
good faith, to be honest, that
Yes.
you're working towards it, you're not being
Right.
an impediment. I like it on there.
But
You
number
might
s-
have to pass
right,
with.
number 6 should not be on it.
Number 6 is a hold, right?
Yes, and the other thing I forgot to mention about number 6, that's the street sweeper. There is a lease option for that one. So if that's the case, we carry it in the operating budget, but it's much more affordable. So there's some finagling we can do.
If we leave it on, can that be
It can be deferred.
at town meeting?
Yes.
Or if you find out before the final wording that a leased option is a better thing, do we have maneuverability there?
Well, for leasing, you have to keep in your operating budget, so we would have to amend
Instead of a
Article
special-
4 of
okay,
the,
all right.
the annual town meeting. We put this on here to give you like a heads up.
Okay.
In the next couple of years, we're gonna need a street sweeper. We recognize that's a high price tag, so.
So the motion I made would include everything. It doesn't mean we're supporting all of these tonight, and we don't have the numbers. And even if once something ends up on the town meeting warrant,
Just
it
pass
might not
without
be
action.
acted on, or we might speak against it, or the FinCom might say, we're not recommending that, but at least we can get the warrant done. And we've covered all our bases.
Yes,
Is that what we're doing? Okay.
thank you.
Did you second that motion? I think I interrupted you.
Second.
Any further discussion on this? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, the ayes have it. The next 2 items, I want to step down as chair, and I'm going to let the clerk take over the next 2 items because of the conflict.
The
Okay,
the
so-
kennel? The kennels are
Oh,
gone?
no, I'm talking about over here.
Oh, no.
Oh,
So
no.
we
She's talking about
I thought
the
I
bylaws.
thought you said we're voting on all of them with the exception of.
No, no,
Yeah, she's
I
doing
said,
separate.
I said Articles 2 through 26 with the addition of an article for
You're right.
whole bills. So we
So,
still got
The
these to do.
second, the second part of it.
Yep.
I'll entertain a motion on the second part.
I thought Selectman Goulart was gonna make it. I can make it. I motion, is this this is the final warrant?
Yep, from tonight, Karen and I know what to put in front of you on October 9th.
Okay, I make a motion that we place articles numbered tonight, 28 and 29, to the special town meeting warrants.
Is there-
Second.
is there a second? Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose, abstention, the ayes have it.
Mr. Chairman, I have one more motion. I make a motion that we place number 27, Select Board, on the warrant as a non-binding resolution with the understanding if it passes, it be placed on the town election ballot in April.
I'll second that motion.
Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
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 Oppose, I oppose, abstention, the ayes have it. We all done with the warrants then?
Yes.
So I'm gonna step down and, under new business B and C, I'm gonna let the clerk take over the meeting.
Sure. So next on the agenda this evening is to review, discuss, and act on the Historical Society request to waive the rental fee. And we received a piece of correspondence. It says, "Hello Karen, can we be placed on the agenda this Wednesday night to request a hall rental waiver as well as permission to put a small sign out front of Old Town Hall for our event, the Dayton Historical Society, on October 26th, 2019.
I will make a motion to grant that request.
And I will, do I have to step down? No. I will second that motion. Discussion?
I would just say prior to the event, you'll do a walk around, or you and somebody from your society will,
I will make sure I know the condition it's at before I go in.
okay, very good.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, abstentions?
I abstain.
The ayes have it. He abstained, sorry, I was talking.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Acting Chairman, I will make a motion that we grant permission to the Historical Society to place a sign out front.
It's a 2x3 sign, and it will be out front, and it will say psychic and craft sale today.
Okay, so that we grant the request to place an event sign in front of the Old Town Hall for the
Just
day of the
the
event.
day of the event.
I will second that motion. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, abstentions?
Abstain.
The ayes have it, the motion passes.
Okay, we're gonna continue with the meeting. Under new business, appoint David Eckerson to the Community Preservation Committee. I had an opportunity to speak to him at the Taste of Dayton, and he indicated that he would like to join another committee. He's already on a committee, and I suggested the CPC that they were looking for a member, an at-large member. I spoke to Tom briefly about it, because you're an at-large member
Correct.
also.
There's 4 on the,
Yeah. So I'll entertain a motion on this.
So moved, Mr.
Second.
Chairman.
Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? The ayes have it.
More new names, that's fantastic. You sure you didn't twist his arm a little bit?
You volunteered.
That's fabulous.
Next, under new business, vote to rescind the location of the zoning board of appeals at Old Town Hall. Did we actually vote to have them over there? So now we got on vote. Okay. I'll entertain a motion then to rescind the location of the zoning board. And do we also have to note that we're putting them over here now, or that the zoning
Well,
board's
it's a
over here?
good note to have, just because if you need the ZBA, they're here at Town Hall, currently sharing an office with the planning board, so the lower level.
And Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we rescind the vote to locate the zoning board of appeals at Old Town Hall and to approve their relocation to the lower level of this town hall building.
Second?
Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstention? The ayes have it. Correspondence. We received a correspondence from the Forever Young Marines. I'm going to read the first letter, if you don't mind, but I'm not going to read the other information. This is addressed to the Town Administrator, Ms. Aristine. Each year from October 23rd through the 31st, the Forever Young Marines and other units across the nation actively participate in an initiative called Red Ribbon Week. The purpose of this initiative is to recognize and spread awareness about our nation's illicit substance abuse problems. You can assist us in publicizing and promoting this initiative by issuing a proclamation that boldly declares your support and commitment in our fight against illegal drug abuse and those who promote its use. The Young Marines in the National Youth Program, whose mission is to positively impact America's future by providing quality youth development programs for boys and girls that nurture and develop its members into responsible citizens who enjoy and promote a healthy, drug-free lifestyle. Drug awareness and education are vital and are key elements in the Young Marines' fight against illicit drug use and trafficking in our communities. To win the war against drugs, we must reduce the demand for illicit drugs, and one of the best ways to accomplish this mission is through education and awareness, starting with our youth. Red Ribbon Week is an excellent opportunity to promote the awareness, and we hope you will join us in this campaign. Young Marines ages 8 through 18 will actively and aggressively participate in the Red Ribbon Week campaign by handing out red ribbons, pamphlets, and verbally spreading this important message at local events and in our schools. Having you support in this Young Marines project will greatly assist us in expressing the importance of getting our anti-drug message out. We can work together to rid our communities of illicit drug use and those that traffic and profit from it. The Young Marines program is dedicated to having a positive impact on our youth and communities. Any consideration of our request is greatly appreciated. You will find the sample proclamation and history of Red Ribbon Week in a Word form attached. You have been an ally and a supporter of the Forever Young Marines, and we thank you. Should you have any questions, please feel free to contact me at my email at frym.ddro@gmail.com or by cell phone at 774-225-9359, and it's signed by Jennifer Leo, Drug Demand Reduction Officer. So they've given some history. I assume we've had an opportunity to take a look at the history of the Red Ribbon Week, and they also gave us a sample proclamation. So what is the board's wish?
I don't personally have an issue with adopting the proclamation.
Mr. Chairman, I will make a motion that we issue a proclamation as requested in recognition of Red Ribbon Week from October 23rd to 31st as requested.
Is there a second?
There's a second. I do have a question to my colleagues. Is everyone comfortable with the second paragraph, the first sentence where it says, whereas there is hope in winning the war on drugs? Is everyone comfortable with the way that that's phrased?
I'm not comfortable with it.
Yeah, that was my
because
impression.
I worked in probation for years, and the war on drugs really didn't work. I don't like the terminology. It's not a war.
My motion was to issue a proclamation. I didn't say this wording.
So we can change it?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I think we can pick out stuff from here that's most appropriate. But, you know, it doesn't have to be verbatim.
Okay, perfect.
This isn't a proclamation that has been issued by, like, when the governor used to issue certain ones and you just read them and follow them. This is a request with a sample, so we don't, and I didn't say we would be
As
using this
prepared.
exact wording.
Yeah,
No,
exactly.
no.
Just making
No, I
sure.
said as requested, but not as prepared.
I have no further discussion, Mr. Chairman.
So if we vote on it, it's approved, you know, that the change that we would want would be in that second paragraph. I'm not sure, is there anything else that would,
I
anybody
was
has a
okay
concern?
with everything else, Mr. Chairman.
That was a good point, more on, the opioid crisis that's going on.
I almost think you could completely eliminate that second paragraph, and you don't take away from recognition of the gentleman who
Right.
lost his life, that it's been established by Congress, so forth and so on, and it's And down the bottom now therefore we, the Board of Selectmen of the Town of Dayton, do hereby proclaim, dun 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 dun, we can all sign it.
Yep. If there's no further discussion, let's take a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstention, the ayes have it, so we're gonna eliminate that paragraph. And we'll have it at the next meeting then, this proclamation.
Do you
Don't we
need it
have
at the
to-
next
don't we have to
meeting,
read
or
No? We're just
do you
gonna.
want to?
Oh,
I
this
don't
is-
think you have to read it,
No,
but
but
if
we're
you'd like
playing
to.
or something, so. What does the board feel?
Well, we could, at the next meeting, since we got a lot of time, we could say that the board did issue a proclamation, and it is posted here and on the website, and if anyone would like a copy, it's available at Town Hall. Just
Yeah,
an
they've asked us
announcement.
to advertise it, so just.
Okay.
we should. Under announcements, there'll be a special town meeting on October 28th, as you heard us discuss it earlier, at 7 PM at the Dayton Middle School Auditorium. A representative of the Census Bureau will be at the Dayton Public Library recruiting census takers on the following dates and times: September 30th from 10 to 1 PM, October 15th from 5 to 8 PM, October 28th from 10 AM to 1 PM, and if you have any questions or you want more information, please call 1-855-562-2020 or apply online www.2020census.gov/jobs. The Parks and Recreation Committee will hold its annual pumpkin painting party on October 20th, 2019 from 12 to 4 PM with a rain date of October 27, 2019. They are in need of volunteers. Please contact Mr. Tim Rhines at 508-415-5907. Girl Scouts Troop 76116 Annual Stuff the Bus Food Drive is scheduled for Saturday, October 19, 2019 at Under the Sun, 1050 William Street, 10 to 2 p.m. The Dayton Historical Society, and as I've pointed out every time I mention the Dayton Historical Society, that I'm a member and officer of the Dayton Historical Society, none of the officers get, or none of the members get paid. The Dayton Historical Society is hosting a psychic fair and craft sale on Saturday, October 26, 2019, 10 to 5 p.m. at Old Town Hall, 1111 Somerset Avenue. To reserve space, call Patty at 508-436-3105. Primetime adult care is in need of clients. If anyone knows of someone who would benefit from meeting new friends, trying new experiences, and staying active, please call Primetime at 508-669-6272.
Actually, I have one. Oh, good, yep, wanted to make sure you got
And we have one other, the Board of Health has asked us to read this. It's the order of the Commissioner of Public Health pursuant to the Governor's September 24, 2019 declaration of a public health emergency. On September 24, 2019, Governor Charles D. Baker issued a declaration that a public health emergency exists in the Commonwealth due to severe lung disease associated with the use of e-cigarettes and vaping products and the epidemic of e-cigarettes used among youths. For the reasons set forth in this declaration, in addition to evidence and facts presented at the Public Health Council meeting and in consideration of the ongoing federal and state investigation, I, with the approval of the Governor and the Public Health Council pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 17, Section 2A, issued the following order. Over-the-counter products approved by the Federal Food and Drug Administration for the sale or use as tobacco cessation products and marketed and sold exclusively for the approved purpose may be made available pursuant to a standing order. This order takes effect immediately and shall remain in effect through January 25th, 2020, unless extended with the approval of the Governor and Public Health Council, or until the declared public health emergency is terminated or the order is otherwise rescinded by me, which happens first. It is so ordered. Monica Burrell, MD, MPH, Commissioner of the Department of Public Health. This is dated September 24th, 2019.
Mr. Chairman, I just have one. The last reminder, Associates for Human Services is having their annual supper, spaghetti and all the fixings, this Friday, 5 p.m., St. Nicholas Parish Center. Tickets are $12 for adults, $8 for seniors, $5 for children. And this is the last call. If you want to reserve tickets, contact Debbie Howland at Associates for Human Services.
Selectmen's reports. I'll begin first, but Mrs. Goulart and myself attended the MA meeting of the Selectmen last Saturday, and we had several speakers. She'll give some reports on some of the events that happened. But I asked Mrs. Goulart if I could speak on the on housing, because I'm somewhat familiar with housing. So there is a bill called in the House, H 3507, that's promoting housing choices. This, when I was a member of the ZBA, along with another member, Tim Rhines, as well as our administrative assistant, Nicole Skylerson, attended a meeting and a seminar on housing choices. And as a result of that meeting, we felt that it was not appropriate for the town of Dayton to support this amendment. So the ZBA made a recommendation to the Board of Selectmen that they not support housing choice. And I don't believe I was a member, but I believe the Board of Selectmen, Select Board, voted to also not support housing choice. But it looks like that this may pass. One of the reasons why we objected to it, the ZBA objected to it, it's going to make it a lot easier to change the zoning bylaws. Right now it takes 2/3 majority, and now it's going to be, if this passes, it's going to be a simple majority. So zoning bylaws can be more easily changed. It still will be the majority. And just for the record, there are 4 states that have already passed this: Connecticut, New Hampshire, Vermont, and Maine. And they have a much rural community, so they've accepted it. One of these things, let me give you an idea as to some of the things that this would impact. By making a simple majority, the town would be able to reduce its residential dimensional requirements, for example, provide smaller setbacks, smaller lot sizes, higher buildings. It will reduce required residential parking ratios, so in other words, right now we require a certain number of parking spaces for apartments. This would allow it to be reduced, which frees up some space to put more apartments, I guess. It will create mixed-use zoning in town centers and creating multi-family and starter home zoning in town centers near transit and other smart growth locations. It will adopt natural resource protection zoning and open space residential development by right. The next item really doesn't impact us, but the number 6 is adopting 40R smart growth or starter home zoning overlay districts. This came before the zoning board probably 8 to 10 years ago, when it was possibly discussed that the old Raytheon buildings be converted into apartments, first floor businesses, second floor apartments, and it was eventually withdrawn. 40R means that it has to be near transportation. The state will give $3,000 for each student that results from this development. And so far they have been paying it, but we know how the state is, that sometimes they change that. It would allow accessory dwellings units or in-law units by right. Dayton happens to already have this as a bylaw, so we can, by right, have an in-law apartment, but the ZBA controls, or the bylaws control, the size of the in-law apartments. It will allow for the increased density through a special permit process, promoting more flexible development. It will increase density, in other words. Whereas where communities already allow transit-oriented multifamily and mixed-use projects by special permit, the bill reduces the 2/3 vote for special permit to a simple majority for projects with at least 10% affordable units. It requires the department, THCD, to report on progress towards 135,000 new units in housing choices, designations, and grants by 2025. And the state already, at least the past fiscal year, has already met that requirement. And it will allow municipalities to enter in revenue sharing agreements for sites affecting more than one local governor. So if we have some kind of development that's very close to another town, or it impacts the other town, we can share some of the revenue that we get from that. So this looks like, even though the ZBA, the Dayton ZBA opposed it and the Board of Selectmen opposed it, that this could very well become law, and it will impact our zoning bylaws. It still will take more than 50% plus one person to approve any changes, but it makes it a lot easier to make these changes.
You want to just mention what doesn't qualify, because this was the last slide.
So what doesn't qualify, and they give a couple examples. Zoning changes that would change the zoning map from limited business to heavy industrial, so they can't, it still would take 2/3 changing any zoning. Zoning that would amend the sign bylaw. zoning change that would increase the minimum lot sizes for a residential zoning district. As such, change decreases the overall density, so if you wanted to increase it, it would not be a simple majority, it would have to be a 2/3. And other zoning changes that do not meet the criteria in the proposed legislation. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, before you move on, do you know where our state delegates stand on H3507?
I do not know. It was,
When it was brought up before, the main concern was, there are certain things that every community has that should remain with that community. They were looking to do initially, this is a modification, what we're looking at now. Initially, from the Berkshires to the end of the Cape, the same rules were going to apply, and our position was, well, it's not the same everywhere, and certainly the zoning needs and wants of a large suburban community as opposed to a rural community, as opposed to a big urban area, they're not the same. And so that was part of the opposition. They've made this a little more palatable, all right? At the time, we delivered the message, both here and at the MMA meeting I was at, and the committee I sat on also agreed, you can't do this border to border. This is not acceptable. We're not the same. What happens in the Berkshires, it doesn't happen in southeastern Mass. So anyhow, I think with these changes, I think they've made changes that have a better chance of passing. I still don't know if it's going to actually end up the way it's written, but it's improved somewhat.
So remember, if you recall, I'll be very brief, we all went to the State House and we sort of spoke to our state delegation about these kind of like top-down mandates that end up sometimes having negative consequences on small rural towns like Dayton. So I don't know if the board wants to consider maybe sending our state delegation like a letter about this particular bill, but maybe that's something we can think about down the road before they go to vote.
I'm going to suggest that the town administrator get in touch with our legislative reps and just say, the board went to the meeting and reviewed the latest provisions, and it's just wondering, what's your position on this?
Yeah.
Do you see any more amendments coming? What was really, the first meeting I went to, what was so upsetting was that the Mass Builders Association was just pushing this down because they said, who do these towns think they are telling us how many houses we can build? And those of us in the room looked around as if to say, we're the ones that live in these towns. They're still on board with this, but as I say, this has changed remarkably from the first edition. That was a hot meeting.
and the other thing is, I want to let you speak on the MMA meeting that we attended, but we also attended the groundbreaking of Bristol Aggie Town Administrator, as well as Mrs. Gould and myself, as well as other members of the town attended the groundbreaking. It's a $109 million project. I didn't get the date as to when they think it's going to be completed. Do anyone
I think it's
remember?
2 years. Well, 2 years for the first building to open, not the whole project.
Not the whole project.
No, I don't have that with me tonight. One of the things that was really nice, they did recognize the I'll call it the delegation from Dayton, but towards the end of the program, when Commissioner Mitchell got up, he specifically said, I want to recognize the town of Dayton and its officials for all of the work and cooperation, because this would not be possible without them. And something to the effect, not exact, we're fortunate to be located in the town of Dayton, something along those lines. In addition to the members of the board, and they had each of us stand. Mr. Ferry was there, the two chiefs were there, Mrs. Sousa from the Council on Aging, as I said, the two selectmen and Mrs. Aaronstein, and we were well represented. But I thought it was really nice that they recognized not only that project and the town's involvement from day one, but also they recognized the other projects that we have had and the ball field that's going on right now. But they were very complimentary to the town of Dayton, so that was really nice.
And specifically, you're on the advisory board, so we appreciate that. Is there anything you wish to mention?
I have a quick summary. Mine is all the financial information that was presented by John Robertson, the legislative director for MMA. So I'm not going into detail, but a lot of good information, a lot of good news. In both fiscal year 18 and 19, there were budget surpluses. I know I've sat on this board and said, things don't look good, the April receipts didn't come in as estimated. But when they finished FY 18 and 19, surpluses both times. Therefore, the governor filed a supplemental revenue bill, which basically means we got some cash and he's gonna figure out how, he's suggesting how we spend it or save it. So, the supplemental revenue bill is put money into the state stabilization account, which we're talking about doing at our own, fully fund special ed circuit breaker aid, additional money for regional school district transportation, additional school aid in Chapter 70, additional money for capitalization, 40 million more for Chapter 90, that's highways. Still not what we're looking for, but it's a plus. 10.5 million for complete streets program and small bridge program. $500,000 to test for PFAS in water. That's this chemical that appears to be everywhere. Additional money for the Clean Water Trust, changes to Chapter 70 school aid that will benefit low-income communities. That's part of an education plan that's around there right now. I don't see that helping us at all, or our partners in the region. Minimum aid to school districts, this isn't a biggie, $30 per student, drop in the bucket. There is a bill that, in the bill, there's a separate bill that promises to fully fund charter school payments by communities. Some communities have to make payments for support of charter schools, and they're looking a way to fund that. They want to remove the cap on the school building approval process for school projects. In other words, instead of saying we only got X million, we can only approve up to that amount. That cap's been removed. I'm not sure how they're going to determine which projects are going to get funded, but that was it. The governor filed an $18 billion with a B transportation bond issue for roads, bridges, public transportation. Again, it only includes $200 million for Chapter 90, which MMA has been still fighting to get more. So now I've mentioned $200 million and $40 million. I think most people in the state realize we need a lot more for roads, bridges, and things of that nature. The House and Senate overrode the governor's veto of public sector union rights. The climate change bills are in the works, funded by the registry, the deeds excise tax, and there is an economic development bill that's in the works. And the final thing was the Community Preservation Act. There is additional money for FY19, which will be payable in November of this year, and there will be additional money in FY20 for Community Preservation Act that will be payable in November of 2020. However, the additional money still doesn't mean we're going to get a windfall because of the number of communities that have joined it. But anyhow, it was a very positive, hopeful legislative financial report. So that was. Oh, would you pass that to Karen so she just
You
has
took
it,
very good
please?
notes. Any other selectmen reports? If not, acknowledgements. We received, the Primetime received an anonymous donation of $30, and they also received a donation from Robert and Lynn Fernandez in the amount of $50. So we appreciate it.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we accept the anonymous donation to Primetime in the amount of $30 and the donation to Primetime from Robert and Lynn Fernandez in the amount of $50.
Is there a second? Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, the ayes have it.
Mr. Chairman, I have a request that we recognize and probably send a letter expressing our appreciation. Mr. Robert DeRocha, who owns Green Care Landscaping in Rehoboth, donated his time and equipment and talent to appraise I'll call it landscape on Miller's Lane that is part of the project. You probably recall the Aggie School did the work for us at the insurance office. There wasn't enough time for students to do it. I know this gentleman, and I asked him if he would give us a price on what the appraisal would be. He says, I'm not gonna charge you, I will do it. He went there, he did it, he gave us a written approval. So, I will make a motion that we send a letter to Mr. Robert DeRocha and thank him for donating his services for that appraisal on the Miller's Lane property.
Second.
Any discussion? I totally agree with your recommendation. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, the ayes have it. Minutes, except for review the minutes of the Selectmen's regular meeting of September 18th, 2019.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, the ayes have it. And approval of the minutes of the Selectmen's regular meeting of August 21st, 2019.
So moved.
Second.
Just have a question. Has there been any changes since we received those on September 18th? You said no?
No.
Yeah. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, the ayes have it. Approval of the warrants.
Mr. Chairman, I move that warrant 13A-20 in the amount of $100,492.39 payroll. 13B-20 in the amount of $25,608.80 payroll. Warrant 13C-20 in the amount of $242,036.21, and 13D-20 in the amount of $1,635.87, the last two being accounts payable, be approved.
Second.
Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, the ayes have it. Public input, last chance.
Thank you.
No? So we're gonna be going into executive session. We will not be returning to the open meeting, so I'd entertain a motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
Second. I think we have to say what it's for, though,
Yes,
right?
you're gonna say pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 38, Section 21A2. I'll
This
keep
is-
going to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel. That's it.
So is that your motion then?
Yes.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Roll call.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Cable.
Thank you,
Good
Cable.
night, Cable.